Shalom. First off, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Yahweh, who the world didn't really calls God, in the name of Yahweh Shai, who the world didn't really calls Jesus Christ. Secondly, I'd like to give a double honor to the apostles and elders of Green Millstone who continue to teach us this truth, and a salutations to you, Akim, out there, doing the work of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, sincerely. All right, this is the brother Kakam. All right, and we are going on to continue this sort of survey of the Medeo Persian Empire. And we're going to go through the secular history as well as hit certain scriptures. If you haven't watched part one, highly I highly recommend that you do watch part one so that you'll know what's going on, because I'm going to jump right into it. All right. So this is Daniel chapter 8, verse 1, and it says, in the third year, Salakia, of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was in Shushan, in the palace, which was in the province of Elam, and I saw a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and came up last. All right, so this is talking about the emergence of the Medeo-Persian Empire. All right, because at this time when Daniel was made a governor in Babylon, all right, the Medes and the Persians were already starting to build up their kingdom. They were already starting to expand. So Daniel's over here. If we look at this map, Daniel's over here in Babylonia. All right, matter of fact, I think I can draw here. Daniel is over here in Babylonia, but the Medes, he was here in Elam, right, which is very close to Babylonia, but the Medes are steadily expanding from both sides. The Medes and the Persians, because the reason that these tribes are kind of spoken about together is because they were pretty much the same people, just different tribes of the same people. So the Medes and the Persians were related. All right, they were related. All right. So it says it's exactly like saying, Judah and Benjamin in a way. It's the same thing. They're from the same seed. All right, Judah and Benjamin are who? They're Israelites. Well, it's the same thing. The Medes and the Persians, they're just different tribes of what? The Elamites. It says, and I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. All right, so that's talking about Cyrus. And it says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west, from the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And when he came, the ram with two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And when I saw him come close unto the ram, he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver out of the ram's hand. Therefore the goat waxed very great, and he was strong, and the great horn was broken, for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. All right, so now this is talking about what? This is talking about the eventual collapse of the Medeo-Persian Empire by the hands of who we will learn to be Alexander the Greek. All right, and when Alexander the Greek finally did did die, he did disperse his lands to his 4 generals. All right, but we're gonna stop it there because I don't want to get too far away from the topic at hand, which is what? Which is Astyages, Cyrus, and the rise of the Medo-Persian Empire. So to kind of bring it back into the historical context, we're going to go ahead and read Bel and the Dragon, all right, a chapter in the Apocrypha, all right, which mentions, this is pretty much after Astyages or Darius the Great had destroyed the Babylonian. They had already not necessarily destroyed the Babylonian, but they had already taken over the Babylonian Empire. All right. So this is Bel and the Dragon, chapter 1. And it says, and King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. All right. So at this point, Astyages had already died. It says, and Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. Now the Babylonians had an idol called Bel, and they were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour and 40 sheep and 6 vessels of wine. And the king worshipped it and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own God. And the king said unto him, why doest thou not worship Bel? Who answered and said, because I may not worship idols made with hands, but in the living God, who have created the heaven and the earth and the sovereignty over all flesh. Then said the king unto him, thinkest thou that Bel is a lying God? Thinkest not thou that Bel is a living God? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day? Then Daniel smiled, and the king and said, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay, and but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything. So the king was wroth and called his priests and said unto them, if ye tell me not, if ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die. All right, so Daniel always finds himself in these situations. Daniel's always finding himself in the situations where he is essentially challenged by a ruling king. All right, because Daniel was someone who was he was a useful person. He was competent. All right, so he'd always be around the kings of these particular kingdoms. This is exactly what happened to him with Nebuchadnezzar prior to in the previous kingdom. All right, where he had to essentially break down Nebuchadnezzar's dream for him. And this is exactly what's going on with him with Cyrus. All right, where he is being challenged once again. Or rather, Daniel is challenging the king, And it says, verse 9, but if ye certify me that Bel devoureth them, then Daniel shall die. For he hath spoken blasphemy against Bel. And Daniel said unto the king, let it be according to thy word. Now the priests of Bel were 70, beside their wives and children. And the king went with Daniel into the temple of Bel. So Bel's priest, it says, so Bel's priest said, lo, we go out, but thou, O king, set on the meat and make ready the wine and shut the door fast and seal it with thine own signet. All right, so signet is essentially like a, like a piece of paper or something like that that would notify someone that you'd be able to tell if the door was open. And it says, and tomorrow when thou comest in, if thou findest not Bel hath eaten up all, we will suffer death, or else Daniel that speaketh falsely against us. And they little regarded it, for under the table they had made a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually and consumed those things. So when they were gone forth, and the king set meats before Bel, now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and those they strewed throughout all the temple, and the presence of the king, in the presence of the king alone. Then they went out and shut the door and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. Now in the night came the priests with their wives and children, as they were wont to do, and did eat and drink of all. And in the morning, betime, the king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, Yea, O king, they be whole. And as soon as he opened the door, the king looked upon the table and cried with a loud voice, Great art thou, O Bel, and with thee there is no deceit at all. Then laughed Daniel and held the king that he should not go in. He saith, Behold, now the pavement, and mark well those footsteps are these. And the king said, I see footsteps of men, women, and children. And the king was angry, and took the priests and their wives, and shewed them the privy and took the priests and their wives and their children, who shewed them the privy doors, where they came in and consumed such things. I think I skipped a line. Oh no, I'm good. It says, therefore the king slew them and delivered Bel into Daniel's power, who destroyed him and his temple. And in the same place there was a great dragon, which they of Babylon worship. And the king said unto Daniel, Wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is no living God. Therefore worship him. Then Daniel said unto the king, I will worship the Lord my God, for he is the living God. But give me, but give me leave, O king. I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff. The king said, I give thee leave. Then Daniel took pitch, fat, and hair, and did seethe them together, and made lumps thereof. This he put in the dragon's mouth, so the dragon burst in sunder. And Daniel said, Lo, these are the gods you worship. And when they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation and conspired against the king, saying, The king is become a Jew, and he hath destroyed Bel. He hath slain the dragon and put priests to death. So they came to the king and said, Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house. Now when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them, whom cast him into the lion's den when he was 6 days, and where he was 6 days. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every 2 weeks carcasses and 2 sheep. And when they were not given unto them, to the intent they might devour Daniel. Now there was in Jeri a prophet called Habakkuk, who had made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl, and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. And the angel of the Lord said unto Habakkuk, Go carry the dinner that thou hast into Babylon unto Daniel, who was in the lion's den. And Habakkuk said, Lord, I never saw Babylon, neither do I know where the den is. And the angel of the Lord took him by the crown and bare him by the hairs of his head, and through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. And Habakkuk cried, saying, "O Daniel, Daniel, take the dinner which God had sent thee." And Daniel said, "Thou hast remembered me, O God, neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee." So Daniel arose and did eat, and the angel of the Lord set Habakkuk in his own place again immediately. Upon the seventh day, the king went to bewail Daniel, and when he came to the den, he looked in, and Daniel was sitting. Then cried the king with a loud voice, saying, "Great art thou, O Lord, God of Daniel, and there is none other besides thee." And he drew him out and cast out those that were cause his destruction into the den, and they were devoured in a moment before his face. All right. So, wow, I could have pressed this. I was struggling with those U's as V's. But yeah, so basically Cyrus ended up becoming a believer in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He ended up becoming a believer in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai because he saw what? He saw the true power. He saw that the Yahweh Bashem Yahushai was a true and living power. All right. He saw that he was a true and living power. And that was enough to kind of motivate him into believing in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. And this is kind of this story, even though it seems, it's only one chapter in the Apocrypha, this story kind of sets the stage for a lot of the social what do you say? How do you say this? It sets up the stage for a lot of the social what do you call these policies that Cyrus will enact during his reign. So we're gonna stop here, all right, and then we're gonna continue with Cyrus the Great's reign, all right, and some of the contributions and why he's so important to you know to to the children of Israel, and why he is so important in the Bible. Like, why is he even mentioned, right? Because everyone who's mentioned in the Bible has a role. All right. So we're gonna stop here, and until next time, until the next part, shalom.